Guys, thank you very much for your time. Hope you're really enjoying the day at Big Data London so far. I'm Adrian McGill. I'm a lead solution architect at Fivetran, and I also have Raf Massey with me, who's the product marketing manager at Snowflake. And really what we'd like to do today is talk to you about the immediate future of data. And the real reason why we're talking about the immediate future of data is because I think a lot of the sessions you're going to be talking or going to listen to at Big Data London over the next couple of days may be quite aspirational for the organizations you're working. You might maybe not have the budget or the resources or the architecture or the infrastructure to achieve those goals. So what we want to talk about is the key steps and the key things that as an organization you could do right now to make sure that you're ready for that kind of aspirational state, which might be 12 months or 18 months away. So Snowflake and Fivetran will be at booth 406 just inside the main door. So please do come and visit us for a chat after the session. Raf, if you'd like to jump onto the next slide, that'd be great. Perfect. So what we want to talk about first is a challenge, a major challenge in the industry of data and analytics that I think gets overlooked a little bit or doesn't necessarily get talked about. And I really want to address this challenge head on. Then we want to talk about one overarching trend in the industry that it's absolutely essential to be following this trend and to be moving with this trend to make sure that the data and analytics team in your organization is really adding value to the businesses that you work in. Then we want to talk about 3 immediate actions. There's lots of different things that could be done in organizations right now to move you in the right direction towards your data and analytics goals. But these 3 actions are something that we're going to talk about as immediate action points that you can go back to your business and work with straight away. And then we're going to talk about the data mobilization journey. So really the shift and the change and the ease that has happened in this over the last couple of years. So Raf, if you want to jump into the next slide, please. Perfect. So the challenge that I set really, and the challenge we want to discuss is, are we making the most of the data in your organization? So there's 3 pieces of research on the right-hand side of the slide here. The first one is 97% of data sits unused by organizations. This is research from Accenture. The second one is only 1% of data has been analyzed from McKinsey. And the last one is less than 1% of data in businesses analyzed and turned into benefits. This is research from SAP. So for me, this is a huge challenge in the industry. And if we stop and think about this for just a couple of seconds, you know, when we think about that, maybe 90% or 95% of data is never actually used. Yet we continually talk about the importance of data and how much value that data can bring. If we had the ability to shift this dial a little bit, to shift it away from 1% to 10% or to 20% or even 30% of the data in our organizations actually being used, there would be a huge amount of value that we could drive from that. So really the conversation today that we're going to be talking about is really helping organizations with ideas to go, right, where are we right now? How much of a percentage of data are we actually using and how do we push that forward? So Raf, if you want to jump directly to the next slide. So this is the one overarching trend really, which is the move to the modern data stack. Really critical thing to be thinking about in the organizations that you're in right now. So when I mean the modern data stack, I mean working with tools such as Fivetran, Snowflake, or Google Cloud, or AWS, or Azure, or Looker, or Power BI, or Tableau. Really these tools that, you know, over the last few years that, you know, you may not have even heard of 5 years ago, but have become really important in the data and analytics space right now. And their job or the idea of these tools is to make your life as simple and as easy as it possibly can be. So I've been working in data and analytics for close to 15 years now. And the tools that are available right now really have the ability to allow you to draw real value from the data because you spend all of your time actually analyzing data rather than kind of fixing and organizing data. So if I look at the flow of this slide, on the left-hand side, you've got multiple data sources, whether they're applications or databases or events or files or functions. And then there's obviously a requirement, if you have disparate data sources, to actually pull them together in an automated way into a data warehouse. So there are tools exactly like Fivetran who can do this in a very automated way without you actually needing to spend significant amounts of time building out pipelines and try to manage and mitigate those pipelines as well. So that you can land the data in a cloud data warehouse, such as Snowflake, in a kind of analysis ready schema so that it can move on towards your analytics projects and your BI and reporting projects. So for me, this trend is absolutely critical. If you have aspirations to become a data-driven company in 12 months or 18 months, this is a trend that your organization needs to be moving with right now, because I do think that it's the main mechanism, the main thing that will allow you to become successful in your data analytics projects in the future. On the right-hand side, I got like, what is the why? So why are people actually moving to this modern data stack? The first and foremost one is automation. So all of this slide here, from your disparate data sources to your integration and to your cloud data warehouse on towards your BI and reporting and analytics, a huge amount of this can now be automated. So you don't have to spend the time with your data engineers trying to build this whole thing out, but instead your data engineers and data scientists can actually spend time on the front end actually analyzing information, speaking with your business users and drawing value from your data. So automation is the first key one. The second is scalability. So with cloud providers, you have the ability to scale your projects up or scale your projects down depending on if and when you need. And the third then is, as we spoke about, is centralization. If we go back to that piece of research where it says 1%, 2%, or 3% of data is actually used, a huge reason for that is because data isn't actually centralized in a lot of organizations. There's no one central place where all that data is used. However, moving to this modern data stack, this specific trend really has the ability to centralize all of this data so you have it in one area so that you can analyze it and you can draw value from it there as well. So Raf, if you want to jump to the next slide, and it's actually a quote from the rather infamous Charles Darwin, which says, "It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the ones most responsive to change." And right now, in our industry over the last maybe 3 to 5 years, there's been incredible change, an absolutely huge shift in the industry, and a shift like we've never ever seen before. And what used to be incredibly complicated is now actually highly achievable. Therefore, I think this move to the modern data stack is absolutely critical if you're to be successful in your future endeavors from a data and analytics space. And when you think about it, if you're not shifting and if you're not actually changing with the times from a data and analytics point of view, the likelihood is your competitors are doing so, and the potential is that your competitors are actually taking market share away from you. Or if you think about new entrants into your market, such as, think about what Revolut has done to the banking industry. Revolut will be a very, very data-driven company, and they're changing the landscape from a banking point of view. So be aware of this change and make sure that you're at the forefront of this change using these new tools that are available. And as I said, these tools are there to make your life a hell of a lot easier. I've been working in data for a long time, and now using these tools makes my life so much easier than it used to be. So do push for these tools within your organizations, because I think you'll see a huge amount of value from that. And Rafi, I'd like to jump on to the next slide. So there's 3 immediate actions that I would like to kind of take away, and I'll leave you with this from my side. These are things that I think are absolutely critical to work on as a business, so that when you think about your it allow you to take the right steps towards these goals. Rafi, if you want to jump to the first one. Perfect. So the first one is really a thought process, or how you actually think about your data. And it's about moving beyond BI and reporting. From my side, I deal with a huge amount of clients on a day-to-day basis who have it's almost like a goal of visualizing data, or the destination they have for all of their data is just to actually visualize it. But the reality is, Microsoft Excel was created in 1985, and we're able to visualize data at that stage through bar charts and graphs. And it looks a little bit nicer in the tools we have right now, but essentially it's the same thing. So if you think about all of the investment that you put into your data stack, from your infrastructure, your architecture, your team, your tools, it's a huge amount of investment. And if all you're going to do with that data is just put it into reporting and BI, I don't think the ROI is actually there on your whole data world that you're working on. So I think it's vitally important to think not just about putting together your BI and reporting, but moving past your descriptive analytics. Obviously, descriptive analytics are very, very important. But if you think about that analytics maturity curve, moving towards that predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics, that sort of stuff is really, really essential. And it's where the ROI in your data stack is actually going to come into play, because right now I don't think that having BI and reporting as your main goal is really going to be suffice to have a positive ROI in your data world. Raf, if you'd like to jump to the next one. Perfect. So this is the rise of DataOps. So I'm actually really excited to see that there's actually a DataOps theater in Big Data London. I've been talking about this for quite some time, and it's quite difficult to get traction from DataOps. But DataOps has obviously risen from the whole world of data governance, and DataOps can be defined as a process-oriented methodology for developing and delivering analytics projects. And really from the world that I've been in and working in consulting for the last 15 years, I'll often speak to clients, and when they're talking about doing big projects, I'll ask them, what's going on from your data governance? What's your data quality like? What's your data completeness like? What are your data lineage graphs? What's your data velocity like? Invariably, the answer tends to be, well, we've been trying to add value to this project over here, therefore we haven't really had a chance to focus on the data governance side of things. And it's a critical mistake when you're thinking about trying to be a data-driven company. Doing that data governance piece is absolutely critical at the outset. So data ops and data governance is critical. There's a recent piece of research out of MIT that stated that only 9% of executives always trust the data that's given to them from their business. So if we flip that on its head, that means 91% of executives don't actually trust the data that's given to them. There's a massive gap there. So there's a massive trust gap there. And the reason why they don't actually trust it is because the proper data ops and the proper data governance hasn't actually been put in place. Now, I know that data governance and data ops isn't the exciting stuff, and it's not the cool stuff that people want to be associated with, and it's not the stuff that's going to win you awards within your business. However, it's absolutely critical to get this piece right now if you have aspirations to be that data-driven company, because there's no point in jumping kind of catapulting towards advanced analytics stuff if you haven't done the data ops and data governance piece early. So I would urge you to think about that as quickly as you possibly can and put steps in place to implement this. And the last one then is data democratization. So for me, this tends to be a very controversial one when I talk to clients about it. But if we go back to that piece of research, or the numbers piece of research that said, either 1%, 2%, or 3% of data is actually used. Our data and analytics teams are always going to be a bottleneck for the use of data. We simply don't have the bandwidth to be able to answer every single data-related question for everybody. Therefore, there is a requirement to democratize data. And I suppose what I mean by this is not opening the floodgates and letting everybody in, but providing the right level of data to the right people at the right time, and providing managed access to data to empower individuals to use data in their decision-making process. This will allow our organizations to move the dial from maybe having 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% of data being used, but maybe jumping up to 20 or 30 or 40% of data actually being used. So for me, it's a really, really critical that we get right. Alongside implementing a data democratization program at work, there is that requirement to implement something along the lines of data fluency training as well. So you take the people who you're going to be sharing the data with and go, right, here is data fluency training, so that you understand the basics of how to load your data, how to manipulate your data, how to visualize your data, and how to draw value from that data. That for me is absolutely a critical piece of the puzzle. We can't just democratize data and open up to everything, because there's always a lot of pushback from IT departments and data departments about that. But if we want to move along that curve of having more and more data used in our business, we need to train people individually on how to actually use the data and how, so that we can have a full democratization program in place. So for me, that's the critical pieces. One, the modern data stack is the critical kind of component that you need to be moving along with, because if you don't, a lot of your competitors are certainly going to be moving in that direction and going to be taking market share. Really critical piece. And as I just said, moving beyond BI, the rise of data ops and data democratization are really, really critical, immediate steps. And I think if you get these 4 things right now, and if you start out in that journey right now, the likelihood is you'd be moving in the right direction to achieve your data and analytics goals you've set for yourself in the near future. So I'll pass it on to Raf now, who's going to talk through the data mobilization world and how things have changed quite drastically in the last while. Let me just share my screen for that.
Yeah, thank you, Adrian. I just stopped sharing. If you can share there. Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool. No, as he said, access to data is no longer optional, and data mobilization was never as easy. So to continue this discussion about the immediate future of data, I would like to introduce you to the data cloud in a few minutes, and how it breaks those barriers that really prevented organizations from unleashing that true value from their data. If you want to go to the next slide, please. But even before I talk about the data cloud and what the concept is about, I would like to talk about these new technology trends that you're seeing in front of you now, and how they're changing the way that we use data nowadays. While the concept of data as an asset may not be new, up until now, it has been really, really difficult to make it a reality, as Adrian was talking a few minutes ago. But recent changes in technology, they're changing the way we work with data and making it easier for us to actually transform that data into actionable assets that are going to be relevant for your business. So first, one of the trends is the rise of the cloud. So unlike the traditional platforms that we're used to, that are built with a scarcity of resources in mind, the cloud offers unlimited capacity both for how we store and how we process data. And this gives us the opportunity to run an unprecedented number of workloads at high performance in a centralized platform. So all your data in one place. The second is the explosion of data. Data, as we know, has and will continue to grow in both size and variety. So within all of this data lies a lot of opportunities. And if we're able to tap into it, of course, then we can finally take advantage of that data. And then the third is the desire for teams to collaborate on data. As new data sets and insights are derived, teams are finally looking for ways to share that data and enjoying that data within and across organizations and with their partners. And finally, the last change that I want to talk about is the diversification of analytics. Everyone today is an analyst, and as a result of that, when, where, and how we do analytics has really completely been transformed and is being pushed into every corner of your enterprise. So as the appetite for data continues to grow, the analytics will become a central part of how every person and business process works and works with data. So from, as Adrian was saying, from backward looking quarterly reporting to forward looking predictive and prescriptive analytics, we can expect the demand for analytics to only continue to grow, and we need to have a different approach to make sure that we can make this a reality. If you can go to the next slide, please. So taking advantage of data requires a new approach that will yield a number of meaningful business benefits. So when big companies and leading companies take complete advantage of data, they can drive a huge impact on how they can operate and how they can compete in the market. So first, when you are able to get your arms around all of your data, it's far easier to make better and quicker business decisions, because centralizing data into a single platform reduces the number of hops that data needs to take before it becomes actionable. So by reducing or altogether eliminating the wait for data, we get all users all the data they need when they need it. And as you can imagine, as a result of that, they can more readily spot new business opportunities and make corrections as soon as issues come up. Second, the ease of use and flexibility that comes with working with data in a new way that allows us to reduce the overall cost of how we scale data management and analytics. So by creating a single place, again, for all types of data, we are able to finally deliver performance and plan for scale without adding excessive costs that are very normal with traditional architectures and that actually require a lot of overhead to build and maintain. And third, also, when we're able to get our arms around data, we eliminate costs and we can focus on delivering a great customer experience with, at the same time managing security and governance and compliance. So whether it's improving how you interact with your customers, whether it's building better quality products or making data accessible for internal and external customers that need it, it's important that you have that data all in one place. So in summary, make better, quicker business decisions, because that will get users all the data they need when they need it to get their job done, and then reduce the cost of scaling data management and analytics, so you can leverage a single place for all types of data that delivers performance and growth without excessive cost, and finally create a great customer experience with data to ensure that everyone, both internal and external customers, they can easily leverage data to get their jobs done. So that's how I see capitalizing on these trends lead to big businesses, to big business impact. If you want to go to the next slide, please. But one thing that we see here at Snowflake, when we talk to lots of customers, is that they're falling short of realizing the potential of data because of what you see here in this screen. With the rise of the application cloud, and this is applications like Salesforce, Workday, and all the infrastructure clouds, AWS, Azure, GCP, the amount of data that we have to drive our businesses has exploded, but that data is now everywhere. It's spread across different silos and different environments. And these silos, they aren't just within the organization's four walls. It includes incorporating third-party data, and that's a number I brought here, something around 87% of decision makers, they want to expand their ability to use external data, not only the data they have internally. Silos between suppliers, we've seen in the pandemic how that can cause huge problems in the supply chain, or even how you get data to customers. And additionally, silos, they continue to get added to companies. M&As, for example, merger and acquisitions, they're on the rise, and that is introducing new silo complexity to bring data and different clouds together. Gartner, for example, they talk about in one of their reports that a 75% increase in M&A mentions by CEOs happened in the last few years, and it's becoming a top business priority. And when you acquire a new company, you are dealing with different applications and different clouds. So you want to make sure that you don't have these silos, because they're really expensive and time consuming to extract value from. And as you can imagine, governance and collaboration are almost impossible. But you may be wondering, all right, I've been talking for about 8 minutes. Okay, how do we actually fix this? How do we eliminate these silos? And you can eliminate the silos with this that you see on your screen, the data cloud. And the data cloud is this global network where thousands of organizations, they mobilize their data with near unlimited scale, concurrency, and performance. And the data cloud is basically made up of two things. Snowflake's platform and the data, the actual content that populates that data cloud and can be mobilized to drive better business decisions and products. And every Snowflake customer has access to the data cloud simply by using Snowflake's platform. Can you go to the next slide, please? And with the global access to this universal network of data, you can make faster, more effective decisions and pursue entirely new business opportunities without all those barriers that you're used to. So for example, every customer with access to the data cloud, they can easily access data from any other business unit, supplier, partner, or customer, all in a secure way. And a growing list of companies like Salesforce, SAP, Global, and others, they are making their data available in the data cloud because they have seen that this is a superior way to connect organizations with their data. If you want to go to the next slide, please. And I really wanted to show you guys this. This is a really cool image, very powerful image that demonstrates how thousands of organizations are sharing data with their business ecosystem using the data cloud. So to illustrate this a bit further, our product team created this visual in July, where each dot is an organization and each line in there represents data share that are using our data platform and as well as the most relevant data from leading providers. So at the top there, you can see an example of a software company who has created an additional product offering, sharing data with hundreds of partners using Snowflake. The huge cluster here in the middle, to the right, there are companies pulling in COVID-19 testing and vaccine data from the Snowflake data marketplace. Many of those companies, they're using this data to manage regional impacts of COVID on their business, as well as forecast business recovery. So, and then moving towards the center there, a bit is an example of companies consuming financial data from commercial data providers, all without like requiring the creation for all the different data pipelines. And if you look around the perimeter of the diagram, it is showing how thousands of companies, they're sharing data directly with suppliers, partners, and other business units. And then just, can you go to the other slide, please? And as I have said, Snowflake's platform is the engine that powers that data cloud because it's a single platform offered as a service. So it makes it possible for you to discover and generate value from the data found in the data cloud in a variety of ways and in a wide range of workloads, as you see here. So across virtually every industry customers, they're turning to the data cloud to solve their data and analytics challenge. And here at Snowflake, we work with Fivetran in many cases, for many organizations, to help them achieve the dream of a data cloud at their organization and their specific situations. So that's what I wanted to show you today, for complementing the discussion about the immediate future of data and how it's important to have everything centralized in one place. Thank you. Now I'll hand it back to Adrian, who will show you a customer example.
Sounds good. So you can see that's going to be, yep. So quick customer example of who is becoming data driven. This is actually an example from Ignition Group, who is a customer of both Snowflake and Fivetran. And a number of years ago, they were trying to build out their own data warehouse and trying to build out a huge data warehouse that actually caused a huge amount of delays and a huge amount of time consuming kind of work from all of their data team. And they realized that it was a lot more effective to buy versus build. So we've worked both together with Snowflake and Fivetran to make this achievable for them. Going back to the research that I discussed at the very, very beginning about very little data actually being used, if you can see in the light blue on the left-hand side, the number of active Power BI users for this customer has grown from around 3 to around 300, with about 100 people actively building their own reports. So this company now has the ability to, through Fivetran, centralize all of their different data sources in Snowflake. It allows you to be able to use your Power BI tool to analyze data off the back of that. And now from 3 people building out reports to 300 people building out reports. So thinking about, moving that dial from 1, 2, or 3% of data actually being used to maybe 20, 30, or 40% of data being used. Customer quote from the Chief Technology and Innovation Officer is, "We have a list of projects as long as your arm that we're confident we can get working now, just because we have access to all of our data all of the time." And this is really a critical piece to be thinking about. Up on the top right-hand side, it says around 426K saved by buying versus building, as well as the efforts of 3 people over 2 years. And really the critical thing here is that, the people that you have in your team, the resources that you have in your team, once you have a solution like this in play, you can actually spend all of your time, or 95% of your time, working with the business users on their use cases and actually driving value with the data that you have. Rather than trying to build out a data warehouse or build data pipelines, offloading that to vendors such as Fivetran and Snowflake really allows you to focus your team on adding value for the business. So that's kind of all we have for today. We can open the floor up to questions, and as I said, the booth 406 is where both Fivetran and Snowflake will be.
So thanks very much to Raphael and Adrian. We do have a couple of questions for you, although one you sort of started to touch on there, which was about real use cases. You mentioned, I think it was Ignition there. Do you have any others you could mention?
Yeah, I think Ignition Group is a good one to discuss there. They did have a perfect use case for both Snowflake and Fivetran, where they were trying to build themselves, but instead of trying to build themselves, they used both Fivetran and Snowflake. And really the critical thing to discuss here at Ignition, but also broader scale, is how quickly you can actually do this. So I've worked in data and analytics for a long time, and I know if you're talking to your IT departments or your procurement departments, for example, about moving to the cloud or implementing tools like this, generally there's quite a bit of pushback that this could take 6 months, or it could take a year, it could take 2 years. Whereas the tools that have been built in the industry right now have the ability literally to centralize your data extremely quickly. So you could centralize a lot of your data within a couple of days' work. You could have all of that data in your data warehouse and move that through to your data visualization tools. And it's very surprising with how quick you can actually do this in comparison to these kind of projects a number of years ago. A number of years ago, it might have taken literally 6, 12, 18 months to do it. Now it can be done in a matter of weeks, and you can have a fully functioning cloud data warehouse up and running.
Well, that was the other question actually, was do you have any recommendations on how to take our very first steps towards it? Where should people just start straight away?
I think that one. Yeah, I think that it's really good to summarize this discussion actually, because you need the ability to get value from that data first, right? And to do that, you definitely need to to look for solutions that let you centralize all of that data in one place and have that single source of truth. That is the most important thing, I think. And yeah, you can have access to that, to the world's data through the data cloud I was talking about. And yeah, it's a global network of connected data. But yeah, if you have more questions, I think centralizing your data into one place would be the first step, and 510 Snowflake is here to help you do that. And if you have more questions, go to our booth and we'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, guys. We're going to have to clear out the theatre now because we've got another one in a moment, but thank you very much indeed, both of you.